Tuesdays for this Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. I am your host, Russ Williams. I'm so glad you could be here today, ladies and gentlemen. I know you could have been anywhere in this world today. But you decided to be here with me. And I appreciate that. And more importantly, I appreciate you. So welcome to Transition Tuesdays, Transition Army. We have a great show, an action-packed show. Once again, we have a guest who is on my screen. I'm going to introduce him in a second. But before we begin, I always like to state my intentions. And my intention is to give you the opportunity to laugh, smile, think, and engage in honest conversations about your life's transitions. So that's what we do here on Transition Tuesdays. And speaking of honest conversations, I'm going to introduce my special guest here. Man, let me just go over a brief bio. I don't even have things written up and prepared for this young man, but I'm going to go off the dome almost in a way, man. Well, this young man here was a parade All-American. He might have been a McDonald's All-American too. I'm going to ask him about that. He was a 1990 All-Big East selection. He was on the All-Big East freshman team when he played. He made the tournament, I believe, all 4 years as a Georgetown Hoya. He is from New Orleans, Louisiana, went to De La Salle High School, which I believe he won a state championship. We're going to talk about that. Oh, man, this guy is a legend in those parts. He's a legend back east here, and he's also here today, man. We're going to be talking about what he has going on, all that good stuff. We're going to be listening, doing some great things. So, ladies and gentlemen, Transition Army, please help me welcome Mr. Dwayne Bryant to Transition Tuesdays. Here we go. What's going on, sir? How are you?
I'm good. Living the dream.
There you go.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Hey, so Dwayne, I'm not sure if you follow my show much, but I play music for my guests. I like to make them feel at home. So I'm going to play this little tune here that you might be aware of. But when you hear this song, Dwayne, hopefully you can hear it, I want you to tell me, what was your impressions when you heard this song, the first time you heard this song, all right? Hold on, let me see if I can pull it, okay? Let's see if I can pull it real quick. Here we go.
Testament now, I like it.
There you go. Here we go.
Oh, no second line, I love it. I love it, baby. That reminds me of my growing up days, like this project in New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Hey, you know, fun fact, man, when I was listening to that song, the first time I heard that song, when I saw the movie Boomerang, and they were, Marcus Graham, he was in New Orleans, they was playing that song, and they was dancing. That's the first time I heard that song. When was the first time you heard that song, Dwayne?
Might have been that birth, man, to be honest with you. You grew up in the city.
Yep.
That's just a part of what you do. That's a part of the heritage, you know. So I've been listening to that song almost my whole life.
Wow, man. So what part of New Orleans are you from originally?
I grew up in the Fisher Project on the West Bank.
Okay.
Right when you come off the West Bank Expressway, the Fisher Project is right there to your right. It doesn't look like it used to back then, but it's still there.
Right. Wow, man. And now, how does a kid growing up, football is king. If Transition Army, you don't know, football is king in the state of Louisiana. The Saints is big. LSU is big. I lived there for 9 years, so I did witness that. But how does a kid growing up is able to play basketball, not football? Or did you play football as well when you were in New Orleans?
Football was actually the sport that I was being recruited for the most until my sophomore year. I tore up my thumb, so I couldn't grip the ball anymore. I was a quarterback. And after that, I just focused on basketball. I wanted to play quarterback if I was going to play in college. I didn't want to play defensive back, so I just focused on basketball after that.
Oh, that's cool. Hey, so ladies and gentlemen, let's see who's on the check-in. We got Felicia checking in from The Rock. What's going on, Felicia? Welcome to Transition Tuesdays. We also got my guy Mike joining us as well. What's going on, Mike? What's going on, guys? Welcome to Transition Tuesdays, my friends. Welcome. Also, we got Miss OD checking in from The Rock via North Carolina, Lumberton, North Carolina. Welcome. Man, we got people coming out for you there, Dwayne.
They must be old heads like me.
That's right. That's right. Me too. I'm an old head too. So you play. So you started football. Then you hurt your finger. Then that brought you to play basketball. So who got you introduced? Into playing basketball there, Dwayne? Is it one person?
My older brothers.
Okay.
I have 2 older brothers in particular that were really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, neither one of them got a chance to pursue it beyond, high school, but
Mm-hmm.
those were my inspirations. I always wanted to be better than they were, especially my brother Raymond. He was considered the best in the state when he played, and
Wow.
he ended up not finishing high school, but he was one of those guys. When I remember back when he played, he went to a school called L.B. Landry,
Mm-hmm.
and literally the gym was packed just to watch him. And
Mm-hmm.
it was one of those things where people didn't even care who won; they just wanted to see what he was going to do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I just remember that, and just remembering how good he was, and just wanting to be as good as he was, if not better. So that's where my inspiration came from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you on the West Bank, so I'm familiar because I lived in New Orleans Parish when I lived there. So how does a kid from the West Bank of New Orleans go to De La Salle High School, whereas you could have just crossed over the bridge, head to Brother Martin High School, which I coached there for 4 years. So how were you able to, go to De La Salle and not another school?
Basketball. Played in Nord. Everybody who's familiar with New Orleans know what Nord is. New Orleans Recreation Department. Basketball, and through that, I met a guy by the name of Ken Jones, who went by Moon, who coached an AAU program called the New Orleans Spartans. And I tried out, made that team. I want to say I was about 10, 11 years old, and we actually ended up winning back then it was AAU. It's not what it's like now,
right,
with the shoe companies, but AAU, we ended up winning a national championship, I want to say when we were 13, 14 years old. And we had some pretty good players on that team. A guy by the name of Cass Clark. Master P was actually playing with us back then. Jaron Jackson.
Master P, make him say, was playing with you?
Body. Yeah, P played throughout the years with us. Jaron Jackson. Liddell Echols. There's some great players that came out of that AAU program. And so through that, I got invited to, you may remember this, some of these old heads may remember this. There was a basketball camp called BC out of Milledgeville, Georgia.
Yep.
And it was kind of the prerequisite camp to get to the Nike All-America camp. So through that, I got recruited by De La Salle, St. Aug, Jesuit, Brother Martin, all the schools in the Catholic League were trying to get me to go to school there, and I decided to go to De La Salle, mainly because my mother passed away right before I was starting high school. She had been in the hospital for a few months.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah. And the only coach that came to my mother's funeral was the head coach from De La Salle.
Wow.
So me and my family felt like, everybody wanted me to come play basketball and football, obviously, but the coach from De La Salle,
right,
to us, showed that he was interested in more than just me playing sports.
Yeah, man. That is crazy. Let me see. Who else we got here? We got, let's see. We got my man Kendall. Kendall says, tell Dwayne I said, what's up? He trained Marie.
Kendall Isom?
That's it. Yes, it is.
That's my guy right there. Tell Kendall I say hi.
Yes.
Tell him I've been following Marie. Keeping in touch with him on Facebook, seeing what he's doing. He's doing well.
Oh, great. Yes, absolutely. Kendall, I know you heard that, my man. So Kendall is the brother-in-law of my former teammate, Charles Duber, who passed away at Manhattan College when I was at Manhattan College. That was my guy there. Yep. So Kendall's my guy as well, too. Shout out to you, Kendall, man. Shout out to you and your family as well. Man, okay, so you did that. You played. You did your thing there, De La Salle. So talk to me about your days playing at De La Salle. Did you play varsity like as a freshman, like most people do sometimes, or?
No. Actually, in New Orleans at the time, the the schools went 7th through 9th grade, so I didn't start high school until 10th grade.
Okay.
And I played my first 3-5 games on JV, and then I got moved up to varsity, and I came off the bench for the first 3 or 4 games, and then after that, I started every game after that.
Right.
Throughout high school. And my sophomore year, I want to say we were 20-10. My junior year, we were 31-7, and my senior year, we were 40-1 and won the state championship.
Whoa, 40-1. Who'd you guys lose to?
Jesuit.
You guys lost to Jesuit?
And the CYO tournament. That was the only time they ever beat us in my 3 years at De La Salle.
Wow. I remember that CYO tournament, too, because I know Brother Mark used to host that back in the day, all type of stuff. Yep. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
That was the big tournament in the state right there.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember some of the players that you played against that were like good players in the area?
Yeah, there was Cass Clark, who was at Jesuit, Ryan and Brian Hubbard, who were the twins, who were at Jesuit. There was a couple guys at St. Aug that were pretty good. I can't remember the names right off the top of my head.
Okay.
Randy Livingston. Randy was a little bit younger than me, but Randy was at Newman. Randy was a hell of a player.
Yeah, the LSU. Hell of a player, man. Yep.
Yeah. This guy by the name of Scott DeMack, who went to Rummel, he was really good. There was some pretty good players in the Catholic League back then. I mean, and that's when it was truly the Catholic League. There was 12 schools, all Catholic schools. And what was different about playing in New Orleans was that the public and private schools all played against each other in the state tournament. Yeah. And that's not the case throughout most of the country.
Right, yeah.
So we ended up playing against St. Thomas More out of Lafayette. We ended up beating Carroll High School out of Baton Rouge, who at the time had not lost a game and had lost 1 game in 3 years.
Wow.
We ended up beating them, and they were undefeated the year we beat them in the state championship game.
Man, oh man. And you guys were 40-1. Whew.
We were 40-1 that year, and that was during a time when you had a limit on the number of tournament games you could play, but each tournament counted as 1 game. So we would play 4 or 5 games in the tournament, but the tournament itself only counted for 1 game.
Wow.
I want to say we played about 4 or 5 tournaments that year that we won. All of those tournaments with the exception of the CYO tournament. That's the only one we didn't win.
Man. So you guys go 40-1. So talk to me, Dwayne, about the recruiting process. Like, who was involved in your process? How many schools did you visit? And then after that, why Georgetown University?
There was a lot. I mean, I want to say I had over close to 100 Division I offers. And it was, everybody from, at the time, Carolina, to Duke, to Georgetown, Villanova. You name it. And I ended up going to Georgetown because, as I mentioned before, my mother had passed, so one of my older brothers became my guardian. And he loved Georgetown, loved John Thompson, and the truth of the matter is I didn't have a choice.
Oh, okay.
I was going to go to Georgetown because, as you know, for a young black man growing up where I grew up and not having a father at home, Big John was kind of seen as that guy who helps young black men have success. So, that's what my family was looking for me. So Georgetown was basically the only option. I mean, I visited school. I visited Texas. I visited Villanova. I visited USC. At the time, they had Bo Kimball and Hank Gathers before they transferred to Loyola Marymount. I visited, where else did I go? University. I think I only took 3 of my 5 visits. After Georgetown, my brother was like, that's it.
That was it.
You don't need to go anywhere else.
How was your visit at Georgetown, man? Do you remember who hosted you on your official visit and stuff like that? You remember all that?
Yeah, it was Michael Jackson and David Wingate.
Oh boy.
It was a great visit because all the other schools that I visited, to be honest, there weren't very many black folks around.
Right.
And just in terms of the city, the area that the schools were in.
Mm-hmm.
And when I visited DC, David and Michael did a good job of bringing me out in the city because the campus didn't have very many black folks either.
Right.
But the city did.
Mm-hmm.
And I just fell in love with DC, the area.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very diverse area. You got the Mecca. It's the capital of the world, basically.
Yeah.
So I just fell in love with the area. It wasn't, in all honesty, my first choice, but it became my first choice over time.
Right. And the funny thing about Georgetown, probably back then too, like in the 90s too. People, like, if you didn't know any better, you would think that Georgetown was an HBCU because like all the players was black. You know what I mean? So that was the perception. I was like, wow. There's no white. Georgetown is all HBCU.
It's funny you say that because I want to say a few years after I graduated and when I stopped playing, I want to say I lived in Dayton, Ohio for a little while, and I was about 25 when I stopped playing overseas, 24, 25, and I was playing the little men's league or whatever, and after the game, there was an older lady who was there, and she pulled me aside, and she said, "It's so great what that coach at Georgetown did, taking all those black kids at that black school and bringing them to national prominence." Like, what school is she talking about? She honestly thought it was an HBCU.
Yeah.
She really did. And I didn't have the heart to tell her that it wasn't, but but because of the fact that the entire basketball team for the most part was black, back then there were a lot of people throughout the country who thought that Georgetown was an HBCU.
Yeah, definitely, man. I had the great pleasure, Dwayne, of having Gene Smith on here. And he was, Gene Smith, that's my guy there, man. Gene Smith, he says hello to you too, because I told him you were coming on. So
yeah, Gene Smith is who I patterned my defensive game after.
Okay, talk to me a little bit about that, because I was going to ask you, like, who did you pattern your game and your style after?
Defensively, Gene Smith. I remember watching him play. I want to say it was 1982, 83, somewhere around there, and watching him guard Kyle Macy, who was at Kentucky at the time.
Oh, yeah.
All-American.
Great player.
Just watching him completely shut him down. And it was the pride he took in the defensive end, and that's something that was a goal of mine, was to be, if not Georgetown in the Big East, the best defensive player in the league. And I did win Defensive Player of the Year while I was at Georgetown. I never got it in the Big East because, I played with some shot blockers.
Yeah.
But my overall game was patterned after Maurice Cheeks.
Maurice Cheeks. Wow.
And I know that a lot of young guys don't know who that is.
Yep.
He's probably one of the most consistent point guards to ever play the game.
Absolutely.
And
you know what, Maurice? Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, Dwayne, but the funny thing about Maurice Cheeks, I used to love Maurice Cheeks. I was a Knicks fan, so I used to see Maurice Cheeks in the Sixers all the time. But Maurice Cheeks never went left. I don't know how he think. Everybody knew he never went left. He never dribbled with his left hand. He never went left. He was able to flourish, though. I don't know. No one could stop it. No one knew, but they knew it was coming. I don't know, but never went left.
Well, and that, think about that today. It's the same thing today. Everybody know Harden and Ginobili were going left, just like everybody knew Allen Iverson was going right.
Yep.
Couldn't stop it.
Yeah, right? Isn't that crazy? Absolutely crazy, man.
Sometimes perception is reality, right?
That's true.
You give a guy just enough to believe you can go in that one way, you can always get to where you want to go.
That's true.
And that's what those guys did very, very well. They showed you what you thought they were going to do, so they can do what they wanted to do. Yep,
that's true. And like today's game, the guy Doncic, he's going to pull up he's going to go left all the time and pull up for the three. Usually it's on the left side, on his left hand. He steps back, what have you, But yeah,
it's just a threat. It's the threat of a guy being able to go by you, and that's one of the things I think today. I'm watching a lot of young kids play. They're so worried about being embarrassed, or so worried about getting crossed up that they don't play defense.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of having to guard Boo Harvey, Dana Barrows, Mark Jackson.
Yep.
Carlton Scream, Paco. I had to guard some of the best guards in the country. So, every single night. So for me, the defense wasn't something I thought about. It was something that had to become a part of my game.
Yeah, and you just mentioned, Dwayne, like there wasn't a day off in the Big East. I mean, you mentioned the Boo Harvey. I remember Michael Porter. You remember that little guy, like jumping over cats? Man.
I mean, I can go on and on. Sherman Douglas. I can go on and on with the guys we had to guard night in and night out. There was no night off, and even in non-conference games, I had to guard Chris Jackson, who later became Abdul Mahmoud.
Yep.
I had to guard Steve Kerr when he was with Arizona.
Yeah.
So there was no nights off.
No nights off, especially at that point guard position. No nights off, man.
Not at all.
Man. Hey, Dwayne, and Transition Army out there, we were talking offline about, teammates. And I know, Dwayne, we could talk about your teammate, your backcourt mate, Mark Tillman, who was a hell of a player, too. Because I remember in high school, I played against him at the Ileani Classic in Hawaii. And I was fortunate enough, I made the all-tournament team. I don't know what the heck I was doing on that. They had, like, Dennis Scott there, Mark Tillman, all types of guys, and I know I wouldn't have gotten no all-tournament nod if I played against Mark Tillman. I know that for a fact. Talk to me a little bit about Mark Tillman, though, your backcourt mate at Georgetown.
Well, like you said, we talked a little bit about that offline, and to this day, Mark is one of my good friends. I learned a lot from Mark. Not just on the basketball court, but just in general as a young guy from the South coming to the Northeast to DC. The vernacular was very different.
Yeah.
Where I grew up compared to here.
Right.
Even the way you describe some things was very, very different. And I'll never forget my freshman year. I made the comment to Mark that I needed to go make groceries.
Oh, yeah, that's a big comment in New Orleans. Yep, making groceries.
Yeah, he said, he was like, Wayne, what did you say? I said, man, I got to go make groceries. And this was very early on in my freshman year. He said, man, don't ever say that again. I was like, why? You don't go make groceries? He's like, Wayne, you don't make groceries. You can't make groceries. You can go buy groceries.
Right.
You can't make groceries. And it was one of those moments in life where you realize, damn, that makes sense. Like, so he did a lot of that for me where, he kind of helped me adjust. But just as a teammate, I mean, you can go back and look at a lot of the games we played in, and the 4 years that we had together. And, I still hear it sometimes when I think about us playing, and, I have some old videos that I watch, and it was almost impossible to hear an announcer go, Tillman or Bryant, when I was saying Tillman and Bryant.
Right.
And we became one of the best backcourts in the country together. So
that's right.
Mark could flat out shoot the ball, was super athletic, tenacious on defense.
Yep.
Just was a great teammate. I had done a little project years ago where I kind of looked at my assists that I had throughout my 4 years, and I think I calculated about 65 to 70% of my assists over that 4 years were to Mark.
Wow.
So we got to a point where we just knew where the other guy was going to be on the floor. And if you watch old video,
you
can see me making passes to him without even looking at him, just knowing where he was going to be.
Definitely, man. So, Dwayne, man, talk to us a little about, you had the great run, and we're going to talk about that at Georgetown. Talk to me about playing for Big John Thompson. Like, how was that? Because the perception was, he served as a father to, like, the players on the team. Shoot, he seemed like a father figure to me, and I didn't even play at Georgetown. But talk to me a little bit about Big John.
It was a love-hate relationship. If I'm being honest about it. It was a hard 4 years as a person and as a basketball player. Because, a lot of times you feel like things happen that are unnecessary in terms of how you may have been treated and things like that.
Yeah.
that sometimes you feel like when beyond being a disciplinarian or being about basketball. But at the end of the day, like I tell people, I don't feel like there's anything in my life to this date anyway that I have not been able to handle. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going to give him credit for anything, it would be that he prepared me for the toughness in my life that I've gone through and being able to survive it. Because, I honestly felt like I've survived that for 4 years. There wasn't much I couldn't survive.
Right. Yeah. And that's real, man. That's the way. And I appreciate your candor on that too. That's real. And, I guess probably your mindset was like, yeah, like you just said, hey, if I can survive these practices or these games, because I could imagine practices was like hell. Sometimes, when you go through situations, like at least when I played, I remember, the practices were like hell, so the games was like a cakewalk, So, right. So, and if you feel like you can get through those practices, if a coach is harping on you the whole time, you get through that. You can probably get through anything. You agree?
Yeah, well, we didn't have the best relationship.
Right.
Quite honestly, he didn't like me. I didn't like him.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of it is we needed each other for our own reasons, right?
Sure.
I needed him because I'm playing ball, but also I'm at one of the best universities in the country.
Yep.
In the world.
Mm-hmm.
He needed me because I was the best point guard on the team and one of the best in the country. So
right.
He needed me to win games. I needed him to get my education.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, there was respect in that between the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a very, very valuable lesson about that, to be honest with you. He actually said to me one time that he said to me, your problem is that you want to be liked.
Mm.
You don't want to be respected. And I learned a lot from that because at the end of the day, he learned to respect me. I learned to respect him for what we brought to the table.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't have to like each other.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I say that all the time to kids, like, they don't have to like you, but they must respect you to get what you want, to get where you want. And if they respect you, they're going to always need you around. But if they don't, people like you all the time, but they talk behind your back too. So, so for me, it was more, I learned that lesson that in life, it's more important for me to be respected than it is to be liked, and I learned that from him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The old adage is, what do you like? What do you want to be, feared or respected? Sometimes,
Right.
One of those deals.
Well, and in respect, sometimes there is fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you have respect, you also garner fear from people because of that respect.
Mm-hmm. That's true, man. So, Dwayne, what are some memories that you have, like, of games? Like, because it's funny with me, being a former player. A lot of times, the things I remember is, like, probably not, like, on the court related, like, locker room deals or, like in hotels or in the dorm rooms, sometimes like that. But do you got, like, some big memories of, like, your playing days at Georgetown, like big games or NCAA tournament bids or stuff like that, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I was very fortunate that in my 4 years, we played a lot of big games.
Mm-hmm.
Winning the Big East championship my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
Having to guard Billy Donovan, who was one of the best guards in the country. Mark Jackson, who was one of the best guards in the country my freshman year. Winning the Big East tournament again my junior year.
Wow.
Some painful memories. Obviously, the most painful one was my junior year when we were the number one overall seed in the tournament, and we lose to Duke in the Elite Eight.
Oh, that's right.
And what was disappointing about that particular tournament for me was the game before. I think I had 27 on 6 or 7 made threes against NC State.
Wow.
And there were 2 bogus fouls called on me in the game against Duke, and I had to sit the first half.
Oh, man.
And the first 5 minutes of the game, which, as a player, kind of takes you out of your rhythm when you got to sit that long.
Absolutely. Very pivotal those times. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But most of my memories surround just hanging out with the guys, man, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Jaron Jackson, Mark, some of the things that would happen in practice, some of the things that would happen, on the road when you travel.
Yep.
just little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't very many games that strike that chord with me more so than it was like those moments.
Yeah.
Just kind of hanging out with the guys.
Definitely. Hey, Dwayne, I got a question. My guy Smooth, the voice of the Jaspers, he had a question for you, Dwayne. He says, did you ever think about transferring?
Absolutely, I did.
Mm.
Even so, I went so far as to have my stuff packed sitting at the airport.
Oh, boy. Talk to me about that, man.
One of my best friends in the world ratted me out, Jaron Jackson.
What happened? Wait, what happened there?
I was gone, man. I just couldn't take what I thought was unfair abuse at the time.
Right. What year was this? Like freshman year, sophomore year?
That was my freshman year.
Freshman year, okay. Mm.
I just felt like, I felt like I couldn't do anything right.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know if he knew my name or not because he never called me by it.
Wow.
I can't say here what he called me, but he never called me by it.
Right.
And you probably heard Gene Smith say the same thing, and any other former player you get on here will probably tell you the same thing.
Yep.
But I just felt like the man didn't care about me.
Mm.
And that was very, very different. That was very different from what my high school experience was, because my high school coach was kind of like a father figure to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of little what I call Thompsonisms,
Mm-hmm.
that I think about as I'm older, little things that he said or done that I find myself realizing that I grew from.
Uh-huh.
And trust me, I don't give him a lot of compliments for a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some things that I took away from that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely tried to transfer, and I'll never forget when I got pulled back and sitting in his office with him and Mary Finland, who at the time was our academic advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And he just looked at me and he said, "I'm not letting you go." He's like, "You're not leaving Georgetown."
Wow.
And he said, "If you survive this, there's nothing in your life you can't.
Wow.
You can't deal with."
Mm-hmm.
And I just, at some point I realized, like, you know what? I'm just gonna be me.
Mm-hmm.
If he plays me, he plays me. If he doesn't, he doesn't. At least I get a degree from Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
I just resolved myself to just like doing the best, and that mostly came after my sophomore year. My sophomore year was the worst year I ever had playing basketball.
Wow.
Statistically, emotionally, mentally, physically,
Uh-huh.
it was the worst year I ever had, and I felt about as low as I can go. And it was that summer that I went away with the Big East All-Star team, and we did a European tour
Mm-hmm.
where my game just kind of blossomed. And I came back into my junior year, and I just literally said, "F it.
Mm.
I don't care if he doesn't like me.
Yep.
I don't like him. I'm gonna play my game, and either he's gonna play me or he's not."
Right.
So that mentality kind of changed everything for me.
Mm-hmm. Man, that is real, Dwayne. Man, that is so real, man. Because people probably think those things, but it's good to hear you say that, man. And it's good, because players definitely think that. I know there's plenty of like Division I players who, think about, damn, I need to transfer, I need to get out. You know what I mean? I thought about that too when I was a redshirt. I've been in college, and then Coach Lapis, who was the coach, he was bringing in all his players, and I was like, damn, man, I need to get out of here, man. I was trying to transfer, but I talked to my high school coach, and he was like saying, hey, you already sat out one other year, you can't sit out again. So I was like, okay, I'm stuck here,
It was honestly a conversation that I had with my high school coach as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a funny story, because when I called my high school coach, this was after they pulled me back to the university.
Mm-hmm.
I called my high school coach, and I was just kind of crying to him and telling him what was going on. And he basically asked me two questions.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Do you know how to play basketball?" And I said, "Yes, sir."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Were you not a McDonald's All-American?" I said, "Yes, sir."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Then why in the hell are you on the phone with me? Go play basketball." And that was basically the conversation.
That was
and
it.
And after that, I had a really good freshman year. as you mentioned earlier, ended up being on the all freshman team for the Big East.
Yeah.
And then my sophomore year was a struggle because it was just missing home, going through a lot of things, and just wasn't loving basketball. And then, like I said before, that Big East All-Star team tour through Europe changed everything. That's kind of the thing that propelled me into my junior and senior year, which were two of the best years I had in basketball.
Right.
I went from a 25% three-point shooter to graduating as the all-time leading three-point shooter in the school's history. So,
damn! Wow. that's impressive.
It was a big turnaround.
Yeah.
Huge turnaround.
No doubt about it. Hey, so you said Jaren Jackson, he ratted you out when he told coach that you was on your way, you had your bags packed, and out of there, what happened there?
That's my boy. I love him to death. Man. Love him to this day. Give him a kidney and a lung if I had to. When he ratted me out. He didn't want me to go. He didn't rat me out because he was ratting me out. He just didn't want me to go.
Right. Yeah. Oh.
He and Mark and a guy by the name of Jonathan Edwards, who was from New Orleans, they kind of helped me get through that whole struggle those first 2 years.
And you mentioned, so I want to get back to high school. So McDonald's All-American. Talk to me about that, man. Do you remember the players that you played against that particular year?
Oh, man.
That experience?
You had Nick Anderson, Rex Chapman, J.R. Reed, Derek Coleman, Terry Mills.
Ooh.
Ala Abdenabi, David Henderson, Ron Hury, Steve Hood,
man.
Tillman. Oh, it was a loaded class.
God damn, yeah, one of the best class ever, I think.
Best Irving, it was a loaded class.
Yeah, man, oh man. So how was that experience, man? Was that like a life-changing experience? That's what I hear from McDonald's All-American alums. They talk about how that was kind of like a springboard for them, for a lot of the players, really build their confidence being one of the best players in the country out of high school.
I was going to say, I echo that. It's one of those moments where you realize you're one of the 24 elite players in the country.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any one of those guys on that team could have gone and played pro ball right out of high school.
Yep.
That wasn't something that was very popular at the time, right?
Right.
But the level of basketball we were playing and the level of talent we were playing against was in that era as good as it got.
Yeah.
When you think about guys like Derek Coleman, who went 4 years of college, J.R. Reed, who went 4 years of high school, Terry Mills, who went. We had a loaded class.
Yeah, definitely.
In that class, almost every guy had an opportunity to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
With the exception of Ron Hury, who had some issues with the alcoholism, if I remember correctly, and ended up dropping out of I think it was Memphis or Arkansas. But in my opinion, he was the best player in the class.
Wow. Yeah.
Even more so than J.R. Reed and Derek Coleman, all those guys. Ron Hury was a hell of a player.
Yeah. You know what I remember too about those McDonald's All-American teams? Like, I remember, I forget which magazine it was, maybe Basketball Times, Sport, it was something. But I used to always remember seeing you guys' pictures, of those 24 players. Oh man, I used to have those on my wall, stuff like that. My brother used to always bring those to my attention. But I used to love to see that picture, like everybody lined up, in their jerseys. Man, I used to love that.
I still actually have the wooden plaque that they gave us. I think I still have my McDonald's All-American jersey.
Yeah.
Well.
Yep, you got to have that frame, Dwayne. You got that frame, right?
No, man. I couldn't tell you where it is. I know it's in a box somewhere. To be honest with you, I can't find any of my Big East championship rings, my NCAA watches.
Yep.
Can't find any of that stuff.
Oh man. Okay, you got to do a deep dive, Dwayne. You got to get that done. You got to get those memories. You got to touch those memories.
Yeah, they're always in my head.
Right. They never escape you there. Nah, I hear you.
Never will. You can't take that away from me.
That's true. So, Dwayne, talk to me about how was the transition from you from being a student athlete to, you said you played ball overseas a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How was that transition for you, man, making that transition?
Oh, that was easy. I mean, you know, and particularly because at that time, even more so now, in Europe, you know, the big guys didn't touch the paint. So as an American guard, everything we did was to the rim, to the rim, to the rim.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd get by the guy and there was nobody there. I mean, it was so easy to score.
Right.
And then, you know, having had developed my ability to shoot the ball, they would literally leave me alone at the three-point line. And I would have 30, I mean, I never scored this much in high school or college. I was the third leading scorer on my high school team.
Wow.
And, you know, fifth leading scorer on my college team. So
right.
I would have 35-point games, 47-point games, because it was that easy to score.
Right.
And still have 12 assists or something like that. It was that transition was the easiest transition in basketball I ever had from playing the game. Now the culture part of it was difficult, and I, you know, I played in areas where Spanish was a prominent language, but I'm fairly fluent in Spanish, so I adjusted to that fairly quickly. But it wasn't, the basketball part wasn't hard at all.
What countries did you play in? Okay. What countries did you play in?
Spain, South America, Italy, and France.
Wow.
And Canada.
Man. So those are good experiences for you. Everything was fun. What do you have like a favorite country that you played in? That the nightlife and everything like that, or
Argentina.
Okay.
Argentina. I played in two different areas, which were, you know, vastly different. One was called Bahia Blanca,
okay,
which was kind of like a little city on the lake, you know, on the water. Not a very wealthy city, not a lot of affluence there. And then I played in a place called Mar del Plata, which was the beach, and my condo was on the second floor with a balcony that literally overlooked the beach, that if I jumped off the balcony I would land in the sand.
Wow.
And you know, nightlife was pretty good, if I have to say so myself. But that was probably, Argentina was probably my favorite place.
Oh, okay. Cool. So you played, how many years did you play ball overseas?
3.
3 years. Okay, good. Okay. So what was
I'll
next?
never forget the day that I walked away from it.
You said you do remember the day?
Yeah, I remember the day, the time, the exact moment when I decided.
Talk to me a little about that, Dwayne. Talk to me a little about that. Why do you remember it so?
Anymore.
Okay.
It wasn't fun anymore. I just remember walking to the arena. We were playing in the championships, and I want to say it was Game 7. Yeah, Game 7. And we ended up losing that game by 2 points, and it was the best game I'd ever had. I had like 35 points, 14 assists, 12 rebounds. And I just remember walking to the arena thinking, I can't do this anymore. I'm done.
Wow.
I don't want to play anymore.
Right.
And after that game, I met with the owners, and you know, they were talking about the next year and contract, and I just said, I'm done. And they were like, yeah, I know you're tired, you know, take some time. I said, no, you don't understand. I'm done. I'm never playing basketball again. And that was it. That was the last time I played.
Wow.
I felt like I was playing the game for everything but the joy of it. It was no longer about just playing something that I loved doing and would do for free. And it became about other people. It became about making money. And at that point, it just wasn't enjoyable anymore.
Dwayne, I'm just scrolling down here, man. Well, Chris had another question too, and my apologies, Chris, because I just saw it just now. But Chris wanted to know, was there favoritism for certain players? I guess when you're at Georgetown or probably overseas, but was it like favoritism, especially at Georgetown? Was there like any favoritisms, like for players?
I wouldn't call it favoritisms, more than I would call it kind of seniorism, right? And one of the things that I learned, and I actually coach this way, is that you can't treat every player the same. You can be fair to all of them, but you can't treat all of them the same. Reggie Williams weren't going to get the same treatment that I got. He's Reggie Williams.
Right.
You know, but if Reggie Williams came late to practice or missed the bus, then he was going to get the same punishment. You know, and what you learn from that is that, you know, you don't have the same relationship with every player.
Right.
So you can't treat every player the same. Some players react differently to being yelled at. Some players need to be talked to versus cussed out.
Yep.
So I wouldn't necessarily say that there were favoritisms, but there were definitely moments where you would look and be like, well, he did such and such. I did it and this happened. He did it and this happened. And it wasn't that there wasn't a consequence. It's just that the consequence was done differently because of how that player would handle certain situations.
Right.
But listen, there's favoritism everywhere if you really get down to it. I mean,
absolutely.
You can watch an NBA game and know that somebody's got 5 fouls and he fouled somebody 5 or 6 times before they call number 6.
Yep.
I mean, that's just the nature of the beast.
Yep.
So, it doesn't bother me one way or another. I've always adopted to the idea that I can only control me. So I teach my players that you can only control what you do. So I don't focus on what someone else does or how they get treated. I only focus on what I do and my situation and how I get treated based on what I do and who I am.
Right. Man,
and that's why I say Coach Thompson and I never got along, but we didn't have to.
Right, that's right. Yep, that's true.
We didn't have to get along.
That's true, right. Absolutely. Yep. Your kids gotta know that, man. Young people playing, you don't have to. You have to be buddy with the coach or whatever. Even players too. But that respect factor has to be there. That looms big.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There was guys I played with that I didn't like, and they didn't like me. But once we got on the court, it didn't matter.
Right.
We had the same goal.
That's true.
Trying to win.
That's true. Do you think, all the hardships that you went through, Dwayne, did it make you a better coach?
Oh, absolutely. I would never treat my players the way I was treated. Never. I've always said players play for 2 kinds of coaches: the ones they love and the ones they fear. I would rather have guys play hard for me because they love me versus fear me.
Wow, that's big. Wow.
When you play for a coach you fear, when you lose, it hurts, but it doesn't hurt the same because you're just happy it's over.
Right.
When you play for a coach you love, it hurts. It hurts hard because you realize you didn't accomplish something for somebody you care about and want to see them have that.
That is huge. That is phenomenal, man. So talk to me, Dwayne. I know you're coaching now, right? You coach?
Yeah, I'm coaching high school ball again.
Okay. Where are you coaching high school ball at now? Oh, okay. Okay. Now, where is that, Dwayne?
I'm in my second. I'm going into my third year. Third year here.
Okay. All right. Now, that's not New Orleans, right? You're not in New Orleans now, right?
No. I'm in the Washington D.C. area again. I'm in Alexandria, Virginia.
Oh, okay. Oh, I just was in Alexandria, Virginia. My aunt, she has a condo there. We just visited her this Sunday. Wow, that's fun.
Okay.
Yeah, great area. I love it.
Just got back from New Orleans.
Yeah. Okay. Man. So, I was going to ask you about coaching. So the coaching aspect of it, and I also see that like you work out players too, and all those things. What are some hardships to the players? Well, is it more difficult to coach today's player now than it was maybe a player back in the days like the 90s or something like that? Like, is it a tougher transition to coach these players because of there's a lot of factors that go into today's players. Some of them have trainers and and posses and all type of stuff, who think they're going to get in the league just because they have a trainer or what have you. So is it tough coaching these kids nowadays?
It's tough, but more so than tough, it's just different.
Okay.
You have to. These kids got so much more access than we had, right? They got social media.
Yeah.
They got so much more developmental opportunities than we had. I was talking to a couple of my players here and telling them, I said, I never had a trainer.
Yeah.
Me either. I never had a trainer.
Me either.
My trainer was the courts in my neighborhood.
That's right.
So to see these guys now, have trainers for getting stronger, trainers for being more flexible, trainers for being more skilled. And all those things are good. Don't get me wrong; they're actually great, you know. But it has to translate to an actual game, and I think that's where sometimes you run into those problems, that they have all of these skills and all these things they can do, but it doesn't translate into a game because they're not taking what they're working on and actually putting it into competition.
Yeah.
They don't pick up basketball as much as they used to.
I know, right?
I mean, back then, you know, you go on the court, you lose, you got to go find another court. I drive around here sometimes and see so many really nice empty courts that, you know, makes me sad sometimes. The kids are just not out playing.
Yeah.
It used to be shirts and skins, you know?
Yep.
You just get out and play.
Absolutely. You remember the day, you know, like in some courts, at least here in New York City, there used to be some courts, if you lose the game, man, you're going to be waiting like 3 or 4 games to get back on. And you hope one of your buddies got next, and maybe he might put you down when he saw that you lost, you know, type of stuff. But
that was the same, I think, back then in almost every inner city in the country.
Absolutely.
You know, like the blacktop is where you made your name.
Absolutely.
You know? Sometimes even more so than high school. You know.
Yeah.
That's why the record got famous.
That's right.
That's how Barry Forms got famous.
Yep.
You know. It's outdoor ball.
Yep.
Like I said, I don't think it's more difficult. I mean, at the end of the day, basketball is still basketball, right?
Yep.
It's still about reaching kids, but doing it where they are. So, you know, we talk about Instagram, we talk about Twitter, we talk about Snapchat, we talk about all of these things and how to use those things to help them kind of build their brand, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
But do it in the right way, because those things are available to them, but there are also dangers in them.
Yeah.
So as a coach, there's so many more things you have to talk about and focus on that may not necessarily directly relate to what they're doing on the court, but it relates to basketball in their world.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, you mentioned those social media outlets, because like you said earlier, because I've heard coaches talk about this too, you know, those out, you know, Snapchats and Twitter, all those things are great, but you don't want to appear on there being crossed over. You know, I think these kids fear that the most. You know, I'm going to be on Snapchat, I might get dunked on, I might get crossed over, you know what I mean? So I guess you got to take the good with the bad with that as well, with all those aspects with that. Dwayne, do you feel that, like, you know, like you mentioned, today's players physically fit, nutrition, the whole nine, this and that, but do you feel like they lack sometimes the fundamentals, like the basic fundamentals? Like I remember talking to a kid and saying, "Hey, do a V cut," and he's like, "What the heck is that?" You know. Did you find that during these, you know, today's players with the lack of the fundamentals?
Absolutely, 1,000%.
Yeah,
1,000%. And it's a shame in some regards, because you know you try to run offenses and guys don't know how to get open.
Yeah.
So you tend to backtrack to teach some of those basic things like a V cut or an L cut.
Right.
You know, or even a backdoor cut.
Oh boy.
We talk a lot about guys when they get to certain points and they can't receive the ball to cut through or back cut. Because you watch enough, right? You see guys going all the way out to half court to receive the ball, and you say, well, so what? You got it, but what are you going to do with it all the way out there? In order for you to go anywhere now, you got to take 5-6 dribbles, which stalls the offense.
Yeah.
You know, so just yeah. There is definitely lacking in fundamentals, but also, you know, you also have to keep in mind, you know, I think the 3-point line came in my freshman year of high school.
Right.
So as a player, everything I did was to get as close to the basket as I could. Right. And as the game evolves now, you know, the 3-point line has changed everything. People say it was Steph Curry. I don't think it was Steph Curry. I think it was the Europeans.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
I agree.
The inflection of European big men, in my opinion, is what made the 3-point line so relevant and important in the game. And Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and guys like that who shoot the ball as well as they do just took advantage of that.
You know, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny too, Dwayne. You mentioned the backdoor cut, like fundamentally sound. Now, I know for a fact I scored 1,140 points in Manhattan College, right? I would think probably like 300 of those points came from the backdoor cut for me. So, you know what I mean? It's one of those deals like, yeah, these kids, they don't really understand the basics, the fundamentals of it, and how fundamentals can really get you over. Because, like, for me, I'm just, talking about myself. I wasn't the most athletic guy, but I was a knowledgeable member of playing basketball. So I think that got me over, and I think that was due to the fundamentals. But what? Last question I want to ask you, Dwayne. Yep, go ahead. You saying?
No. I was just going to say the funny thing is people talk about Kobe, Michael, LeBron, and those guys, but what they don't look at is just how fundamentally sound they are. And it's the reason why they can do what they can do, because their fundamental base is so strong.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, definitely like a guy like a Kobe Bryant. Yep, fundamentally, like footwork, all type of stuff. Yeah, all type of stuff, man.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Both sides of the ball.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. Dwayne, I got one more question for you, man. Then I'm going to make an announcement. Then we'll get you out of here, man. I appreciate you coming on, too. And, guys, if you just joined us, we got my man Dwayne Bryant, man, a former great at Georgetown High School in Louisiana, a legend, a great coach as well, man, going forward. But Dwayne, gotta ask you, man, do you have any regrets, or if you had to do it all over again, man, would you have the same journey? Would you have the same transitional journey?
From a basketball perspective, probably not.
Okay.
If I had to do it all over again. From a basketball perspective, I think I would have chosen something different, knowing what I know now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But from a life perspective and the benefits of attending a school like Georgetown University, nah, there's nothing in the world I would change about that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Which, it's kind of a catch-22, because if basketball would have been different, I would have never had the opportunity to go to Georgetown.
Right.
But my experience at Georgetown University, my education there was second to none. So I don't think I would change anything.
That is good. That's perfect.
I've had too many blessings in my life for that. So
no doubt about it. Absolutely, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, Transition Army, if we were able to make you laugh, smile, and think during this broadcast, my good friends, you have accomplished something major today. So celebrate your victory. Celebrate your victory. I want to thank everybody for watching Transition Tuesdays today. Oh, man, we had a great time here today. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you missed this episode and past episodes, you can always go to our Transition Tuesdays on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe when you go there, okay? You can also follow me on Instagram at Russwood Transitions. That's Russwood Transitions. Dwayne, how can people follow you, man? Get in contact with you, my man.
I don't really do social media. I mean, I have a Facebook page. I have Instagram, but to be honest with you, Instagram and Twitter, I don't really know how to use it.
Okay, no problem.
But they can find it. Send me a message there.
Absolutely.
But I don't really post on them. So,
okay.
To be honest.
Gotcha, man. No, I'm glad you're here today. No, that's no problem, man. And I want to shout out my special guest, Dwayne Bryant, for joining us, man. Man, Dwayne, this has been a pleasure, man, for me watching you playing at Georgetown, for me knowing your story and getting your in-depth story about your transitional journey, man. This has been amazing for me, man, and I appreciate you coming on today to be with us, man.
I appreciate it, Russ. Thanks for having me on, my brother.
No problem. And also, last thing, guys, so guests of our Transition Tuesdays receive a candy gift pack, compliments of our sponsor, Sweet Candy Cafe, which is the home of Southern Sweetness, located in downtown Lumberton, North Carolina. So after the show, ladies and gentlemen, okay, make sure you head to sweetcandycafe.com to get your confectionery goodies, all right? Make sure you do that. You can order home and abroad. I got you, Dwayne. I'm going to get your information off air. I'm going to send you that candy gift pack. Compliments to Sweet Candy Cafe for being my guest.
I love it, brother. I love it.
No problem, man. So again, Dwayne, thank you for coming on, my friend, man. Appreciate it, man. Great stories, man. I enjoy watching. I enjoy talking to you as well.
Anytime, my brother. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, Transition Army, as we say in parting, happy transitioning, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care, everybody. God bless. Thank you, Dwayne.
All right, Russ.
Okay. Take care, my man.
Bye-bye.
All right.